Check. 1, 2, 3.
The
Brief.
This is the Debrief.
Your guide to Detroit.
Your guide to Detroit's
arts and entertainment scene.
This is the
Brief.
Hello and welcome to The Debrief, your podcast for Detroit concerts, comedy, plays, food, drink, and more. It is Wednesday, August 28th. I'm your co-host. My name is Seth Ressler.
And I am Becky Scarsolo.
I'm the new guy to Detroit.
I'm the native.
On the podcast today, we have Delisi from WDET, who knows so much about music.
Always great to talk with her.
Yeah, we're going to get the preview of the Detroit Jazz Festival, which is happening this weekend.
I'm going to tell you about the new restaurants coming to the top of the RenCen.
So I haven't been there since Coach Insignia was there. So these are the replacements.
Right, and there hasn't been anything there since.
Coach Insignia was a good restaurant.
It was good.
It's a high bar there.
Exactly, yeah.
So we'll see how it does. Speaking of the Jazz Fest, Mark Stryker, who spent 20 years as the arts critic and reporter over at the Detroit Free Press, he has a new book that came out in July. It's called Jazz from Detroit. So we're going to find out the history of jazz right here in the city. That interview will drop on Friday morning.
And if you are interested, and so many people are, in podcasts for Detroit arts and entertainment organizations, go to MichiganPodcastProductions.com. That's where we've got some great articles up, lots of information about how podcasting can work for you.
All right, we've got no guest co-host for today's show, so let's just get into it.
This is the Debrief.
Detroit.
Becky, let's talk about food and drink.
So, have you been keeping an eye on this Detroit, Atwater Beach that's going up, kind of the East Riverfront? I don't know if you've seen the signs or the plans.
No, what's going on
So, it's basically a beach, but no swimming. So, it's kind of like a expanded version of the beach in Campus Martius, say, but with the water view.
Wait, a beach with no swimming?
Yeah.
That's a sandbox.
A cool sandbox with other elements to it. Trust me, it's going to be cool.
Is a bar one of those elements?
Yes.
All right. Okay.
Yes. So it's going to be opening this fall. So hopefully soon. And they just announced that it's going to be called the Robert C. Valade Park. And he was the president and CEO of Carhartt, passed away, but loved Detroit, loved spending time on the riverfront. So it's a really fitting name. And his family is super supportive of this whole place where the community can gather with your kids. But also there's a nice spot for adults only. So there'll be the sandy beach. You got your umbrellas and the whole atmosphere, barbecues. They'll have lots of cool playground equipment, even a musical garden for kids, and they'll have food too. It's going to be called The Shed. But the signature element is Detroit's only floating bar. So it's going to be named Bob's Barge, 120 feet long barge out in the water.
What's the point in having a floating bar if nobody can swim to it?
Well, it's not a swim up bar. You go just walk across to it.
You walk on the sand to the bar that's not on the sand.
I think there'll probably be a little sidewalk around it. But why are you so skeptical?
Because why would you put the bar on the water?
So that you can control.
And put the people on the sand. Why would you put the bar on the sand?
It's 120 foot. You can hang out on the barge, okay? Lots of seating areas. They're going to do these cool...
I'm going to trust you.
They're going to do these cool planters. I guess they're going to be made of recycled truck tailgates and all kinds of beverages out there.
You know what I have just seen? We were at Belle Isle, the Belle Isle beach there.
Yeah, Hipster Beach.
Hipster Beach.
Yep.
And we would see all those tiki huts that are
that was new.
By.
6 people can go on those. Yeah,
that looks cool. That looks like fun.
Yeah, I think they've a couple of my friends have done that and said it's a good time. Yeah. So, yeah, go check it out when it opens this fall, the Atwater Beach. So Anthony Bourdain, we've talked about him several times before, and I think at this point, he's pretty known for having really had a strong love for Detroit. Not being from here, but just really kind of adapting the city in the way, loving its authenticity. He even told the Free Press in 2015 that I'd love to be able to say that I came from Detroit. That would be the coolest thing I could ever say.
Well, Anthony Bourdain's got that sort of hard scrabble thing to it.
Grit.
I assume he's a New Yorker.
Yes, from New York.
But I could totally see him loving Boston. I could see him loving, Detroit. He's not a Silicon Valley
putting
guy.
On airs
he's not a,
yeah. And he did a couple of shows, the No Reservations, Parts Unknown, episodes.
It was the same show. They just had to rename it every time.
Well, yeah. But I mean, he showed a lot of love for Detroit over the years. Unfortunately, died from suicide last year. But he was almost done before he passed away with this 4-part documentary on Detroit, kind of a passion project of his that he wasn't even in. He wasn't narrating it or appearing in it, but he executive produced it. And it was pretty much all done. And now it's in search of a platform to show it because CNN was all on board. But there was a few things that had to be done. And then when he passed away, the timing wasn't right. And
so CNN doesn't want it? They're not going to air it?
No, I guess not. So apparently the producer, Lydia Tenaglia, says there's strong interest from a couple other sources. So
I would think people would love this.
I'm like, how is this not already out? Okay. So it's not food-based. It's explores events that shaped Detroit in the early 60s, really just 3 years, 62 to 64. It's based off a book, Once in a Great City, A Detroit Story, which was a book written in 2015 by David Moranis. Okay, so what people may not know is Anthony Bourdain has a strong American history interest. Like that was his kind of side passion.
Oh, I had no idea.
Yeah, so he's huge history buff, very knowledgeable.
Really?
And he was just really captivated with that time in Detroit history and what it meant for the nation as a whole. And he read this book and was like, this needs to be in a visual
That's interesting because this
format.
is, 5 years before the riots?
Exactly.
Normally people always want to talk about
on
67.
67, and the rebellion. So it leads into, sort of setting the groundwork for what, ended up happening. But so David Moranis, the author, he served as a consultant for the film. He came to Detroit for some filming. Like he is on board. Like he, thought it was a great project. So really they're just kind of waiting for who's going to stream it, how we're going to see it. But it includes all these like interviews with Detroiters, Marsha Music, Isaiah McKinnon, the former chief of police, Allie Willis.
Well, look,
we've had on the podcast.
HBO, if you're listening, all right, you're on the knife's edge. Game of Thrones is over. I could cancel you any day now.
But
so
I'd stay for this.
If you want to keep me,
Sign
this is
up.
is there a name for this show?
I think they think it's going to be similar to the name of the book.
Once in a Great City, a Detroit story.
Something like that, or Detroit Once a Great City, or something like that. But I guess there's a really cool interview with Aretha Franklin in it.
Cool.
That's kind of seen as this sort of hidden gem of it, and it was done just a few months before she died.
Are there dragons?
I don't think any dragons, but I mean that could come through in editing.
I think there were dragons here in 1962.
No. Mm-mm. Well, I wasn't here in 1962, so I guess I can't verify that, but yeah, probably not. So coming this fall to the top of the RenCen, it's happening. The Highland Steakhouse, the High Bar Cocktail Lounge with a heavy dose of whiskey there, and Hearth 71, a casual beer bar with open fire cooking. So those three are all going to be part of this Highlands group put on by a James Beard Award-winning chef, Sean McLean.
So wait, let me make sure I understand this. They're taking the entire space that was Coach Insignia.
Well, and a little bit more too. So it's the 71st and the 72nd floors.
Okay.
And should be opening around November. And it's also going to include these 3 spaces plus a big private event space. So you can imagine weddings.
And I'm presuming this is going to have all the views that you would normally get.
Yeah.
They used to get up there.
Yeah. So exciting.
That is pretty cool.
So unfortunately closing, Russell Street Deli. Now they had the big dispute in Eastern Market with the new landlord, Sanford Nelson, and said, you know what, we're not going to stay here. We'll close at the end of September. But they just announced they're closing this Saturday. You know why? Because everybody's already gotten other jobs. So the owner, the owner, Ben Hall, that's what he wanted to make sure, his employees are taken care of.
Well, I mean, that's good.
And listen to this sweet sort of revenge. So right around the same time, Ben Hall's soup line, soups that are sold in stores, is totally taken off. They got a huge account with Whole Foods Midwest. Now they're going to be in 200 plus stores, his line of soups. So he was able to take a bunch of his employees to work in that side of the business, which is called Little Pot. And it's going great.
Well, that's good.
Yeah.
I mean, it's nice that there's a silver lining to that story.
Mm-hmm.
This is the D.
All right, Melanie, from time to time, we have an expert who calls into the show and basically enlightens us about things that we don't know as much as we'd like to about. One of our favorites is Ann Delisi, who, of course, hosts Essential Music Saturday and Sunday mornings on 101.9 WDET. Ann, thank you so much. It's so good to have you back on the show.
Oh, it's my pleasure as always. It's good to talk to you guys. The summer has flown by, as we know.
I can't believe this was short, right? It started
was
late.
Too short. Yes.
Yeah.
Too short. How are your bees doing, just as an aside? The bees in your backyard.
Can I just tell you that now when people run into me, they don't ask me about concerts or music. They literally come up to me and say, "How are the bees?" So
have you named them?
They're doing great. Yeah, so they're two different hives. One's Joya and one is Journey. And they are healthy and getting ready for the winter. So things are already starting to slow down. And pretty soon they're going to kick out all the drones.
Wow.
All the guys, because all the guys, they're the drones. All they do is eat honey and take up space and mate.
We're a summer fling. That's what we are.
Yeah, the summer love's over. Bye-bye, guys.
Bye, guys. Out. Everybody out. So they're just getting ready for the winter. So it's been really, really exciting to watch this whole ecosystem in my backyard. It's really amazing.
Oh, cool.
Well, let's talk about one of the big events that's happening this Labor Day weekend. It is the 40th year for the Detroit Jazz Festival. Tell us about this event. I mean, this is right up your alley, right?
Well, it's funny. WDET, when I was there the first time, we used to broadcast that entire festival so radio stations around the country could pick it up. So it was a huge production every Labor Day weekend, and WDET was so heavily involved in it. But the fact that they are able to keep this festival at this caliber and keep it free is really phenomenal. And a lot of that goes to Gretchen Valade, of course, who has put up so much money and so much effort to make sure that this festival stays as good as it is, attracts people, not just artists, but people from all over the world to come and see it and hear it, is really quite unbelievable. And so we are lucky here in the Motor City to have something. And here's the thing. There's a whole nother generation of jazz lovers that are coming up. And this is an incredible opportunity for them to just walk from stage to stage and hear and see all of these amazing artists. It's really quite great. So
I am not a jazz aficionado. This is not my forte. Mm-hmm. But if I want to go down there and check it out, do you have any tips on how best to approach it or any acts that maybe I should go check out? Well, I should mention that the artist in residence this year is Stanley Clark, who is a phenomenal bass player, has an incredible history. So him being there is really something big. There is a young jazz pianist by the name of Cameron Graves, who I had the pleasure of interviewing, who has a really interesting outlook on music and jazz in particular. He's got a number of performances that are going to happen. And Pat Metheny, who has come to town a number of times, he has been a part of this festival a number of times. He's going to be performing twice. So, and then there's, all of these up and comers that you're going to be able to see as well. So pick a day and just wander from stage to stage. You won't be disappointed.
That sounds fantastic. It's always a great time at the festival.
Oh, yeah. No question.
I wanted to ask you if you've seen the Hitsville documentary yet, the Making a Motown movie.
I saw it. I loved it. It was a beautiful love letter to Motown and the Motor City. It was really well done. And what's so funny is I'm in the credits, and the funny thing was I didn't know I was.
Oh.
And Don sent me a text and said, "Hey, congratulations, you're in the credits." And I didn't really remember what I had done because it had been so long ago, because a lot of people ask me for help on things and I just do a lot of stuff.
Of course.
And
yeah.
I'm like, oh my gosh, I remember those people called me when they started doing this thing.
You should follow up. This might get you union benefits
royalties,
or something.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh,
IMDb.
Right. It was the funniest thing, but I have to say that there was footage in this documentary that I've never seen before. And it really told the story in a very different way. And like I said, the footage is really quite amazing. And to be able to see Smokey and Barry sitting in Studio A and at the apartment, really talking about what it took to make this company tick, it was really fascinating. And they did a great job.
Oh, I thought so too. I thought it was such a nice window too into their friendship and business partnership. Mm-hmm. And it was just really entertaining even just to see the two of them play off each other and to be in that place. If you've been to the Motown Museum, how it just feels in there. And then to see that depicted in the movie, it was great.
It was well done. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And it was worth the wait. And I would assume that those two are happy with how this whole thing came out. And it really just gave you some insight into what it took to do it. It took an army of people and creative people, and they loved each other, and they fought in a loving way, and everybody was very competitive, and it made everybody better. And that was really something that came out, was competition made people better. And there was no question about it when it came to Motown.
Let's talk about another event that you've got coming up. It's your Essential Conversation series, and you're going to be sitting down with NPR's national political correspondent, Don Gagné.
Yeah, and so the thing about this is Don and I worked together at WDET back in the 80s and 90s. So we've known each other for over 30 years. And he when he was in Detroit, he covered Jack Kevorkian. He covered the auto industry. He was at Cobo Arena when Nancy Kerrigan was attacked. He was actually supposed to be there to talk to Brian Boitano, and then everything changed, of course. And then NPR pursued him and asked him to work for them. And then finally he ended up in Washington, D.C. But this is a man who has covered every presidential election since 2000. He has crisscrossed the country talking to people. He's been on Air Force One. He was at the White House on 9/11. He has insight like nobody else does. And he can talk about working at NPR. But one of the things that I did address with him was that now in this day and age, journalists and the news are kind of the news. Journalists are now being put up front in a way that they never had before.
They're the personalities, the characters. Yeah.
Well, and sometimes this is the politicians doing this, but also I feel like sometimes the news networks are doing this. Like this is actually one of my gripes with CNN is that if you look at their website, CNN.com, they're constantly saying, "Oh, Anderson Cooper challenges blah blah blah." You know what I mean? Like, and they put the name of the
that leads.
Yeah, they put the name of the anchor in the headline.
The stars. Yeah, they're the stars.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, everything is different. It's when Don started, there was no 24-hour-a-day news cycle. And I don't know if that's such a good thing.
Those were the days.
Well, you know what? You definitely had the chance to get it right. You had the day to sort of really, pound the pavement and make sure that you got the story right, because retractions don't mean anything. Everybody's moved on. They hear it once and nobody knows. But he is an incredible journalist and loves Bob Dylan. I mean, he wants to talk about Bob Dylan. So funny. But he was a huge music fanatic, always has been. And when we worked together, we would have live performances. He would always want to know what was going on. But the fact that he's coming home to have this in-depth conversation with me in front of an audience, it's going to be September 29th at the Detroit Historical Museum. It's a benefit for WDET because we're celebrating our 70th year. And so we're doing a lot of events, to help support what we do. I mean, sometimes people don't want to write a check or make a donation, but this is another way to do it. And we're going to feed everybody, and there's going to be drinks, and Don will do a Q&A. And I think it's going to be a really remarkable night with a remarkable journalist.
Nice. You've got another September event going on too. That's your Essential Cooking event.
Yes, all I do is listen to music, eat, and
it's a tough life, isn't it? Right.
That's why we get along. We like the same things.
That's right. We do essential cooking. These are benefits for WDET as well. But this time we're going to Frame, which is this hidden dining space behind Joe Bar in Hazel Park. So if you know where Mabel Gray is, it's right next door. And this is going to be called Forage and Feast. And the Chef Ken Miller from Toasted Oak, knows all about the foraging culture, like really going out and finding food. It's really quite amazing. And he's got an 8-course dinner he's doing for us. So it's 2 seatings at 5:30 and 8:30 on Saturday, September 21st. You can go to framehazelpark.com to find out more. But this is going to be really an amazing, like he's got the menu up there and I'm like, oh my gosh, this menu is really beautiful. And so we are hoping to get a good turnout for that. And we're excited to continue to do essential cooking. So it's essential conversations and essential cooking in September for me. That's for sure.
That's a lot going on.
Sounds fantastic. I love that space and Frame. It's just, it feels like a dinner party with close friends and a great atmosphere.
I do have to ask, since you're a foodie, have you tried the new Popeye's chicken sandwich?
No,
because foodies don't try that.
Because that's all that's in my Facebook feed.
Remarkably, that one got by me.
Yeah, I don't know how we missed it.
Clearly, we have a different caliber of friends.
Clearly.
All right, Ann. Well,
Seth, we're going to have to get you out to Essential Cooking.
Yes,
I know, right?
yes.
I try to drag him places, so we'll see.
And thank you so much. People can check out
Thank you, guys.
Essential Music every Saturday and Sunday morning on 101.9 WDET. And then we'll see you out at the Jazz Festival. Thanks so much.
Yes.
Thanks, Seth. Thank you, Becky.
This is the D.
Detroit.
This is the debrief.
That's the show. Don't forget that if you go to our website, thedebriefdetroit.com, and sign up for the email list, we will send you links to everything that we talked about in this episode.
Or you can just simply text the word Detroit to 444-999.
Thank you to Delisi of WDET for calling in.
Always great.
And normally this is the part of the show where we ask our guest co-host.
Rapid fire recommendations.
Right, but we have no guest co-host today.
Let's ask each other.
Due to acts of God or invalid warranty or...
Yeah,
I
I think something expired. Yeah.
You want to ask each other?
Let's see. Why not? We've never done that before.
I'm not going to lie to you. I'm a little scared.
Why? As to what I would ask?
There's a reason I'm on this side of it. All right, here we go. All right, Becky, you know how this works. I'm going to ask you, and then you're going to ask me.
So we'll just go back and forth.
For rapid fire recommendations. Just tell me, or I'll tell you. This is much harder to explain.
It is. Just ask you something, and I'll answer.
The first thing that comes to mind.
Okay.
All right, you go to a lot of concerts. You're a big music fan.
Yeah.
Where's your favorite place to see a concert?
Oh, gosh. I like so many. I like the smaller venues, though, and more as the years go on. I like the smaller venues. But I still love Royal Oak Music Theater because I can walk there from my house, and it's always a good time, and they have great acts. Recently, I've been loving El Club, especially when they have the outdoor part open. It's super cool patio atmosphere, and I love the space inside. I've had some really good times there this past year. So, yeah, those would be my top two right now.
All right.
How about, speaking of summer and trying to soak up the last bits, what's been one of your favorite ways to spend a sunny day in Detroit?
So this is something that I haven't done enough of this summer.
Oh, there's never enough.
Which is the biking. And, this summer I pulled the bike out late because it was raining late and because I was landscaping the yard. But I really like going on, the big, I'm in Oak Park. We go on the Oak Park Easy Roll. I haven't been on the Detroit one.
Oh, okay. Sure.
But I love going. It's weird for me because it's actually slower than I normally go when I bike. And and everybody's got, I just feel like I am not the cool kid because everybody's got a cooler bike
They're more
than
tricked
me.
out.
Right.
Yeah.
I've actually had to trick out my girlfriend's bike and mine with the...
lights.
Right, but it's still just a normal Trek bicycle. It's not one of these low rider, 6
with
feet
the
long.
Big handlebars.
I still haven't figured out where you even buy that stuff. I don't know. I've never seen where you get that stuff. But my favorite thing to do is go biking around here. Nice. I just wish the season were longer.
True.
All right, what is the last thing that you went to Canada for?
Oh my gosh, actually it's been a while. I may have. Well, I'm not sure which was last. To go to a friend's cottage over there, on one of the lakes, or to fly out of Windsor.
Where do you fly out of Windsor to?
We flew to Europe actually. Out of Windsor, it was way cheaper.
Really?
Yeah, it was well worth it. And the Windsor airport is so great. You don't even have to pay for parking, or maybe you do, but it's super duper cheap. I think it was, you had to pay, but I think it was like $50 for a whole week.
Jeez.
And it's like a tiny parking lot. You just walk in and there's one baggage claim and everybody's super friendly and it's the easiest travel experience.
I had no idea.
You're flying internationally. Yeah.
Last time I was over there was actually, I think, for an open mic.
Oh.
I think that was when I was dabbling in stand-up comedy.
Okay.
I'm no funnier in Canada than I am in America.
No, they don't appreciate your humor more?
No, they really don't.
Aww.
I added A to the end of every punchline, too.
Oh, well, that's kind of a crutch. How about, you've been going through some things to do lately. I've seen you out and about. What's been your favorite place to go on a date with your girlfriend?
You know where we went to Cliff Bell's, which I had never been to.
It's romantic.
It was romantic. Well, we did a staycation. And like I said, this is the popsicle stick challenge, right? So we've been talking about this. When you hear about something that you want to go to on the show, write it down on a popsicle stick, stick it in a jar. When you've got a free weekend or a free night, just pull a stick out and go to that place.
And then post about it and tell us.
Post about it and tag us in it and use the hashtag Detroit Popsicle Challenge so that we know. So we've been talking about that a lot. We actually did an entire staycation this way. And Cliff Bell's was one of the places that we pulled out. And we went there on a Tuesday night. Made a reservation because
You didn't know?
I didn't know. And we were like the only people eating dinner there on a Tuesday night. I mean, there were
really?
5 other people in. I mean, it was Tuesday night's not the jam
No,
packed.
and also depends. Yeah, who's playing or whatever.
There was a private part. We've never been early to anything in our lives. We actually got there 15 minutes early. There was a private party going on, like a family reunion before, so we couldn't even get in.
Oh, geez.
And then finally, they opened the doors and they let us in. And which seat do you want? And we can have anyone.
Oh, okay.
So if you want to go for dinner, I think we're the only. Everybody else was just there for drinks. There were like 3 or 4 guys who were clearly producers from back in the day who were talking shop. And but it was cool. The other place that I haven't been to yet, but is on my list. And we've been talking about supporting the businesses over there on the Avenue of Fashion. Is Baker's Keyboard Lounge?
Oh, that you're gonna love
which
it.
I want to
You're
go
gonna
to
love
too.
it.
So
yeah. I need to go back there. I haven't been in a while, but it's super cool and always great music and it's such an intimate setting, and you end up chatting with who's ever sitting by you.
And you feel swanky when you go to these places.
Very.
Yeah.
Good one.
Do you have a favorite boutique clothing store?
Yes. I have a couple. I like, I like Peacock Room.
Where is that?
So that's in the Park Shelton, right across the street from the DIA on Woodward. Park Shelton's the big apartment building, and down below there's a bunch of businesses. So Frida and Peacock Room, they've always got something special. I never go in there and don't buy something. I mean, they've got jewelry and clothing and sunglasses and fun gift ideas too. There's even stuff for men. So I love that place. I like Flow, which is in Midtown. Close, I think it's on Willis. Yeah, Willis and Cass. And it's much smaller, but really cool and funky stuff. So yeah, those would be mine. Do you have, let's see, I know you do. What's your latest and greatest favorite place for cocktails?
Latest and greatest. I feel like there's so many places that are still on my list to go to. Like, I know I need to go to the Sugar House.
Oh, gosh, yeah.
Oh, you know what I love is the Oakland.
Oh, yeah, in Ferndale?
In Ferndale.
Mm-hmm. Sandy Levin's the owner there.
Yeah,
it's
which
great.
has this cool, just sort of speakeasy vibe to it.
Exactly.
I think that's a place that I really dig.
That's a good one.
Yeah. All right, last question. Do you have one wish for the future of Detroit?
Oh, gosh, not one. I have about 100.
You only get one.
Okay. I'm gonna
wish for 3 more wishes.
You're right. No, world peace.
Yeah, I wouldn't put that past you.
I know. I would like that.
You should have. Well, the G7 is over. You missed your chance.
Shoot. I think that I'm just gonna go niche here. I wish that musicians and the whole local music scene was more supported and more like robustly put out there as I don't know if a tourist attraction is the right, but like a selling point for our city, because I am just constantly blown away at the talent we have here and the shows I go to.
But who would do that? I mean, how would that work?
I think it would have to be more robust through the city or through Visit Detroit, some kind of organization. And I think that artists are trying to do it themselves, but I think that can be more of, our city should really be marketed as a music city, and I don't feel like it totally is.
So I agree that it should be marketed as a music city, because you've got Motown there, you've got the history with techno, you've got Jack White, and you've got Eminem,
gosh.
but these are all national acts. Mm-hmm. How do you get that to trickle down to the local?
That's the question, and if I knew the answer, I would literally be doing it.
I will tell you, I think two cities that have done that. Austin, Texas, which has done it primarily through the South by Southwest
Festival.
and
growing that and sponsors.
Then Austin City Limits, but they shut down 6th Avenue there and all these bands. But every bar turns it. You need a neighborhood where there's just a bar every 15 feet.
Yeah, and Detroit is so spread out.
I mean, where could you do that in Corktown? Could you do that?
Oh, yeah, Midtown.
So maybe there needs to be like a Corktown music festival.
Maybe a bigger event, yeah. I don't know exactly what it is. I have some ideas, but that would be my wish, to have that really kind of come together.
Yeah, and then I think something like New Orleans maybe.
Oh, yeah. But, Nashville.
Yeah, Nashville's done it. Yeah. Nashville's
and I mean, you go right on their city websites like Music City,
Yeah, so. I mean, Nashville's got the whole, all country music comes out of there. So
yeah, but tons of other. I mean, you go to Nashville visit, you can see every genre.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. So there's, all right, sure. There's some cities that you can look at. Good answer.
All right.
All right, that's it for us. We're getting out of here. Once again, thanks to Ann Delisi. And don't forget, this Friday, you're going to want to hear that interview with Mark Stryker, the author of Jazz from Detroit.
Yes.
Until then, Detroit's moving.
Keep up.
The Debrief.
Your guide to Detroit's arts and entertainment scene.
Hello, Debrief listeners. My name is Michael Dupree, host of the Michael Dupree Variety Hour, a Planet Ant Podcast's podcast. The Michael Dupree Variety Hour is an art showcase and comedy show where we feature local musicians, painters, poets, artists, sculptors, directors, writers, improvisers, and more. Stop by and discover your new favorite artist, meet some outrageous characters, and revel in ridiculous sketches. The Michael Dupree Variety Hour, the world's only mandatory podcast.
Planet Ant Theater, now doing podcasts. Check us out at planetantpodcasts.com.
Hi, Craig Foley here. If you're listening to the Debrief podcast, well, I've got two things to say to you. One, you have impeccable taste. Two, you care about the community that is Metro Detroit. That's why I think you'd appreciate my daily show, The Craig Foley Show on Deadline Detroit. Every weekday, I tackle the big issues in politics, business, arts and culture, sports. Whatever's on the mind of Detroiters and Michiganders, we will talk about it. It's all open for discussion. And keep this in mind, news doesn't have to be boring. Sure, we talk about serious stories and we have interviews and commentary, but we do it in a way that, if I'm doing my job right, is informative but also entertaining. Check out The Craig Foley Show on Deadline Detroit for news, knowledge, hopefully some fun tossed in.
Interested in hearing from folks in the craft beer industry? Tune in monthly to the Beer Tour Guy podcast. I'm your host, Steve Johnson, and I'm the owner-operator of Motor City Brew Tours. And since 2009, I've taken 25,000 people to enjoy the best beer, cider, and mead being made in Southeast Michigan and beyond. On the Beer Tour Guy podcast, monthly I interview folks working in the industry where you can learn more about what's going on in the industry and in other tours that I'm offering in my tour company. If you'd like to learn more about our show, Beer Tour Guy, or Motor City Brew Tours, visit motorcitybrewtours.com.